Hello, Graham. Thank you so much for joining us again. I am so honored to have you with us again. And the first video was so well received. I've had some people mention how valuable it was, and so super grateful that you're willing and yes, and honoring us and also this time on Earth for us to be so fully awake and aware of the potential of this new. Yeah, it feels like it's a brand new evolutionary leap, like it hasn't occurred on planet Earth yet.
True, true, true. Um, Thanks again. Hopefully, I've done this talk before a few times, so it's been out there a little bit, but hopefully I can weave something new into this one as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, go ahead. I'll give you the how did I do it last time? Let me just check.
Oh, cannot remember. I think I do the share. If we want to look at the images, I'll do the share, and then it should just pop up.
All right, all right. That
Yeah.
might be how we did it.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Bear with us. Thank you for joining us, listening to this recording. And yeah, did I do anything my way? Oh, here, maybe here.
Okay.
Multiple participants. Okay, that should have given you an option to join.
Okay. Well, I guess it's easier to look at the images. It'll make more sense. So I'll bring that up for us to look at. And there it is. That's on my screen. Are you
Yes,
seeing that there, Maureen?
yes.
Okay. So what we're going to talk about here today is what I would call the fifth dimensional, self-organizing yet dynamic social structure. And as we go through, there's about, at least a dozen images here we're going to go through. So on each one, we're going to start off just by describing here. So I've been working on this for a couple of decades, and it's gone around the planet. Many people, grassroots communities, communities online, they have taken this and they're kind of working with it as a template to develop the new communities. And I'll explain this image a little bit in a little bit more detail in a moment or two. But as we go through these images, I'll be linking it to other topics, and I want to cross-reference them. I want to bring them together to show that what we're really doing here is we're bringing forward an archetype or a code or something from the future. We're unpacking the near future in the sense that if we were to, say, move like instantaneously 30, 40, 50 years into the future, this is what things might be like here on the planet, socially wise. And as well as that, some of the other images that we'll be explaining here, they'll be known as well, and they'll be integrated with this one here that we're going to talk about now. So here we are. We've got here, this is a flat surface template. There's 12 pentagons. And then if we were to cut those out, you could fold it up and it becomes what's known as a dodecahedron. And a dodecahedron is the polyhedra, is the five platonic solids, is the polyhedra which maps the golden ratio geometries and mathematics. And it's basically the scaffolding. If you wanted to create and then like a light body or a Merkaba or even a spaceship or a starship, we've got more refined versions of this in some of the other images, but this would be the scaffolding required. And then what takes place is the golden ratio spiral is coming through the centers of each of these 12 faces, heading towards the very center of the unit itself, the polyhedra. And it's at that center, that's called the 0 point in spiritual traditions. And that's where the jump from this side of light speed through the portal, through the Stargate, through into the superluminal. This is basically where it's all happening. So what we've got here is a 12-fold community. And at the top of each of these 12 sectors here, we've got permaculture, we've got the environment, health, global coherence, and so on. And we've got education, we've got public services, spirituality, sciences, the galactic community, justice and commerce and resources. We've got the culture and the arts, and we have urban design and the infrastructure and so on. So all these things that need to be dealt with, even in the 5D reality. Of course, some people might be living out in the bush. They might not go anywhere near an urban design, but there are people that'll want to go into the center, into the market, or into there to the library or the dance halls and these kinds of things. So within each of these 12 sectors, I've been working on adding there 12 smaller or other aspects of the same aspect there, like as far as the galactic community there, up in the corner there on the right, and where I'm looking at it. We have the people that are looking at the galactic research. We have exopolitics, exosciences, some of the things that might be arriving here in our present, in our near future. So when I send this around the planet, different people have looked at it, and sometimes they'll get a white-out pen and they'll white out a couple of these and they'll put in their own version, which is totally fine. They'll send it back to me if I like it. Well, I'll leave them there. So it's dynamic. It's not a finished product. It's not something that has a hierarchical aspect to it. There's no one in the center. We'll get a little bit more talk about that a little bit more in a moment or two when we move on to the next couple of images. So that's the first one there. I don't know whether you want to say anything there or add anything, Anouk, before we go forward.
Yeah, fascinating. I remember seeing this and wondering how how quickly, would humanity catch on or remember.
I,
Um,
I,
yeah,
I've got an idea. I've got a sort of an idea around that one, in the sense where I live here. I live in a community. There's something like 5,000 people here, and a few election cycles ago, 25% of the voters voted for the Green Party, the alternative party about organics and sustainability of the environment and so on and so on. So 25%, now of course some of them are kids and not ready for voting. Maybe we'll say there's 3,000, so a quarter of 3,000 people, and then everybody knows in the community if they want their starseed chart done, they come to me. Everybody knows who the cranial sacral therapist is. Everybody knows who the organic seed collector is. Everybody knows who to go to, for masonry work and building and so on. So in that sense, this is a community where I live, which is already kind of an example of what we've got here. Nobody's jumping up and saying, you go there, you're there, it's self-organizing, it's dynamic, it keeps changing. And the person or the people that are naturally skilled at the different things, well, they are seen as that. They are respected for that. And they are kind of like the council representatives, if you like. Now, maybe it'll evolve and become a little bit more coherent as time goes on. But I think that's the important thing is especially at this stage, it's self-organizing due to the fact that people who are basically living in the fifth dimension, we know who each other are. We go into a cafe, we just know, we look around the cafe, there's holiday makers there perhaps, but we know the other 5D people in the cafe. So this is the next image here. And so what I've done here is that on this side here on the right, this is a photograph of a model I have made. And it's a model where all you need is the golden ratio mathematics. And then we have in this yellow one in the center here, we have these diamonds shapes here. So we'll call them diamond panels. Over here, we've got the same diamond here, golden ratio diamond panels. And then on the outside here, this large purple one, larger by scaling by the golden ratio, diamond panels here. So the outside one, the purpley one here, we'll call that number one. We'll just say there's one polyhedra there. And then in here, we've got a pink one. Here, we've got a sort of white one. We've got a purple one. We've got a sort of dark reddy one or dark pink one over here. And what we find is naturally, when we pack these shapes here together, they're called rhombic trichontahedrons. The dodecahedrons inside a rhombic trichontahedron. So when we pack trichontahedrons together, having them touch each other, we can only get 12. They fit perfectly. They touch each other, but they don't intrude on each other. They nest around a central hub, this yellow one here. So this is the famous 12 around one archetype. Doesn't matter which culture you see it in, we've got the 12 rays around the 13th ray. We've got the Mayan calendar with its 13. We've got the 12 colors of the new chakras and so on. So basically, this is the energetic construct. This is the form of the thought from the higher dimensions, which creates, while they're thinking, they're creating geometries. Well, this is it. So inside this pink one here and inside the whitish one up here, again, scale by the golden ratio. There's smaller ones. Inside here, we've got a green one, and there's 12 smaller versions of this pink one, trichontahedras, inside there. So 12 inside there packed round a smaller version of this yellow hub. So that means within the purple one here, we've got the 12, but then we've got 12 inside. We've got 144 around a central heart. Of course, 144 has symbolic meaning, etc., etc. So that can be branched out and expanded upon in different ways. So when we go back here and have a look at this is what this is. There's 144, 12 with 12 smaller breakdowns in it. This shape here, the diamond, golden ratio diamond there, now we're experiencing what they say in the New Age, the arrival of the diamond ray codes and the diamond light body. Soon, one of these images, we're going to get to a patent which uses the same shape as trichontahedron, and they call it a photonic crystal, a light crystal. Think of the sun and where the solar flares are coming out the sun from these points. This purple one here would be the light body shape of the sun. We've got a few more images to show about that as we go. But over on this side, we've just got some simple alphanumerics. Now, it's interesting, I've just put this on my Facebook page, that the curvy letters of the English alphabet, they're not just random, they are shadow snippets. I'll explain in a moment. Shadow snippets of the golden ratio spiral, the infinitely compressible golden ratio spiral that zooms through a torus, a donut shape, goes through the center, the 0 point at the speed of light, comes out, spirals around the circumference, goes back in through the center. The galaxy's got one around it. We've got one around us. It's called our auric field. The universe has got one, science, cosmo-topology. They'll show you this. So when the golden ratio spirals zoom in through a torus, and you grab that torus, and you move that torus, you shift it at different axes. Now those axes are the axes of this shape here. There's 12 axes, or six actually, one on each side. So there's 6 axes. When we move the torus donut shape, I wish I had the image, to those axes, we can isolate little snippets of the golden ratio spiral, just little snippets of it, and then they form, when we're looking on a wall at the background, they form the lowercase curvy letters of the English alphabet. So consider, for example, that a photon is the shape of a donut, a torus, with a golden ratio spiral going through the center and out and around. And the cosmo-topology, the shape of the universe, same thing. That's fractal. So here we have, doesn't matter whether it's the smallest scale at the speed of light, a photon, or the largest scale, the universe, then we're going to find snippets of the English lowercase curvy letters at all those scales. So I've utilized that understanding. I started this about 40 years ago, and I realized it was going to be a system or a code where I could extract information from any realm, any dimension, any size, any time, etc., etc. So I've got about 600 and something pages with numbers at the top, and I just either I intuitively just sort out a phrase and write it down, or I read it somewhere. I work out the alphanumerics where A is 1 and Z is 26, so simple, and then I lodge that phrase on the number of the page. So here we've got a list here, all at 222, the grand total. Not that I'm that interested in the 222. It's the cross-referencing of the phrases from different schools of thought and so on to see what it suggests. I don't have a preference what number the phrase is going to total. I'm just compiling it and putting on whatever number it arrives at. So I'm just going to read down this list here of blue ones. So we have here overseeing the galaxy, galactic administration, real galactic federation, the galactic community. But then we have group psychology, galactic-wide unity field, advanced civilizations at the coordination hub meetings of Parliament, 12 departments. I've doubled up on that group psychology. The nuclear component, whole system design, integrated overview, and the avatar of synthesis, which is something that Alice Blayley was talking about 100 years ago. She said in a century, the avatar of synthesis would birth itself on the planet here. So it's pretty suggestive when we read and cross-reference some of these phrases. When we're looking in there towards the center of the galaxy, and we know that different representatives from different star family groups around the galaxy, of course, we're just in the small sector of the galaxy. I think we mentioned that last time. So at some point, an advanced group can send a representative into the center of the city, into the center of the Milky Way there, as a representative for this sector of the galaxy and our solar system and so on. So here we have a group of phrases which suggests that their their meetings of Parliament at the Coordination Hub, group psychology, whole system design, integrated overview, 12 departments. So again, we go back up here, and this is what I've tried to do here. So I've done this because I've thought that, well, if the different ET groups that are here watching us, and they're waiting for us to get our act together, well then, if they see that we're working towards this very universal archetype that they themselves use, well then, they'll see us coming, and then they'll be able to perhaps give us a little bit more guidance and so on. They'll know when we're ready, when we're sort of organizing ourselves based on the same principles that they've been using. This second one here, this group of phrases, when I add them up, they equal 183. So we're moving into the Aquarian age. I use that. The Aquarian archetype, holistic vision, new earth, hologram, light-based society, future education, whole systems, a model community, the prototype, communal spirit, the 12 rays. So I haven't used the 12 department, but basically it's the same thing in the sense that each ray has one of those 12-fold areas of community. Interactiveness, the central group, planning councils, agents of society, mature social body, new communities, non-nuclear family, angelically speaking, remote, emote coherently. So again, this is just, in my mind, the universe supporting this idea that this would be the optimum way to organize, or at least allow a community to self-organize into a new social or 5D social dynamic. It's interesting that just in geometry and energetics, this shape here is the most ergonomic. It's the most energetic, but least expenditure and wastefulness of energy. This is what it looks like. They know that in science, when they cool down molecules and they go way below zero, down to what they call absolute zero, as they're cooling down, there's less activity, and then the singular molecules lose their singular independence and they unify as a group cluster. And that group cluster, well, this is what it is here. This is what it looks like, or one of the versions of what it looks like. I just want to jump into the spiritual phraseology now, if we can here. I'm not sure whether you can see this that clearly. I'll try and make it a little bit bigger here.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh,
So
little. Okay. Yeah. You're showing the center point. Yeah.
yeah, I'll slide it across in a minute. So this comes from, if people have heard of the adepts up in the Himalayas who have schools that people go to in their dream life and so on. One of the people there, one of the instructors there is called Saint Germain. And he shared some information now, it's a couple of decades ago, if I believe, that an oversoul or a soul group basically has 144 souls within the soul group. And those souls might be spread out through time, or some may be here on Earth at this point in time. But eventually, those souls, they go through all the different dimensions, learning, experiencing what they used to call the initiations. And then eventually they get to the stage or level where Saint Germain and some of these adepts are, where they begin to not only remember that they're part of the soul group, but the information, the experiences from some of the other members of their own soul group start leaking into them. And they have this memory, which is not only their own experience. So this is a 2D drawing here by somebody who's just got the oversoul, or the theosophists call it the monad, or the higher self might be another name for it. And he's got extensions here, so 12 around the circle, and then he's tried to map that with 12 coming down here, and then of course it'd be 12 from this one and 12 from that one. So that's fine, but energetically, light body, diamond light body, this is what it looks like, the same as what we had there before. So nowadays we don't have to have just a symbolic representation here like this drawing. We actually know what it looks like. We know this is, I think I've written it here somewhere, 144 a trichondahedra, golden ratio embedding in scale and all the volumes and so on. There's a few other images up here. So we're trying to blend together, unify ideas from different schools of thought, or we could call them the different rays or the different departments, different ways of seeing the same thing. Up on the left here, I don't think I'm going to go into this, but maybe one day we can talk about it. This is the physics of implosion. They've got the blue struts there, the
I was
dodecahedron.
I was going to ask you about that because of negentropy, and you keep speaking about the self-organized. Does
Yes,
that
and this is what it is here, basically. There's these blue struts of the dodecahedron, and this looks like a circus top thing here. The yellow and the purple, well, they are fragments of inside one of these trichondahedrons. And of course, one going through that pentagonal face, there'll be another one going through there, another one, there'll be 12 around it. And if you had 12 of that sort of top hat thing there, then you'd end up with a trichondahedron around the dodecahedron. We've got a better image coming up of that. So this one, I'll just make it a bit smaller again. So this one's a patent. You can go to the patent office online, and you could type in photonic crystal. So over here, now it's just done with black struts. It's just that you can't actually exactly tell that it is the trichondahedron, but you can see there the diamond faces and so on. So on the patent, what they say there is that they call it a photonic crystal, a light crystal. And of course, the sun is a big ball of light. So they say that this shape is the optimum shape to catch from the most number of angles information and energies that are coming towards it. That's number one. Then they also go on to say that as far as the shape goes, the trichondahedron, it can radiate away from itself at the most number of angles. So it allows incoming information to come into it from the most number of angles, and then it can radiate from itself in the most number of angles. And you can go and read the patent, they'll tell you all about it. So inside here, this yellow one, that point there is the center where my mouse is moving around. That's the center of the polyhedron. That's this point here in the center of the dodecahedron. And that
Mhm.
yellow one, there's a yellow one there, a couple of yellow ones here. That yellow one there is exactly what this is here, this yellow one. So this is called the reciprocal space, or the inside space of the trichondahedron. And someone knocking at my thing here. I'll just let them go away, I think. Sorry, I'm just scrolling down here. So this is the same, this is the same shape here, I've made this out of cardboard, and this is just a photograph. So what I'm trying to show here, there, down at this point here on the right, that is the center. There it is here. That is the center of the tricontohedron right there. And out at this point here, this is a volumetric shape. This is a tetrahedron. So this is exactly that yellow one there. So there it is. But inside here, that bit there, that bit there is exactly a golden ratio smaller version of this one. All these different colors are
Mm.
smaller versions of golden ratio tetrahedrons. Right down there, that bit there in the corner there, that is a smaller version by golden ratio of this of the whole thing, smaller in size by golden ratio. So when we go back up here, well, we can look at it here. So when this patent says that this shape can store information in it, store more information in there than any other shape, that's because you can scale it down, the volumes, golden ratio volumes, down smaller and smaller and smaller from the basic shape, inside, 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 inside. And all that is storage of information. So if you wanted to create a universal library, then this would be the shape. So that's another reason why we use it, or why I would like to see it being used as the archetype for the 12 or 144 around a central hub. Not that there's anyone in the hub there, that's the principles of the community. So there's infinite, near infinite amount of storage capacity of information. So that makes for a good, for a community being able to store their ideas and so on and transmit them along through the timeline, etc. So I thought I'd bring this photonic crystal into it as well from the science. Just one more thing here. So uh, the red dotted line. So around the red dotted line here, this is the equator. If we were to break the polyhedron in half, I've got them here actually. Um, there they are there. So if we were to cross-section it in half, like at the Earth equator, if we were to cross-section this at the equator of the tricontohedron, we would find, if we looked at it, it would be a decagon. And a decagon, a polygon, a flat surface, is the only regular polygon where the radius from the center out to the point and the edge length of each of the 10 lengths is golden ratio. It's the only regular polyhedron, a polygon, where the radius to edge length is a golden ratio. That's the jump from flatland into through the Stargate. You follow that golden ratio spiral. That's why, in a sense, the movie Stargate had it was basically a decagon. So let's now have a look at what the decagon is showing us when we go on to this next image here. Now, this is by a friend of mine. We haven't met, but we've certainly chatted online. Lynn Claire Dennis. She had some out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, many decades ago, and she saw some dynamic geometries and so on during that experience. And she spent the last 40 odd years or so exploring that. And here's an image here. It's like a snapshot of a YouTube. This is a moving image. I've just sort of taken a screenshot of it here. And it's our heart is beating. And so during the 2 or 3 minute long YouTube, there's moments in that YouTube when clearly the person is, they're sort of meditating a little bit there. So as the person starts to meditate, or as they stop thinking, just, momentarily, while people meditate, they stop thinking for a little bit. So you can see the moving, it's like a cymatic moving geometry. So as their heartbeat slows a little bit, as they stop thinking, then the geometry, the somatic geometry, there it is. It's a decagon. So in what they call heart coherence, Dan Winter goes into this. He has built an app to show that when we're meditating, you can watch the graph, amplitude graph in real time on your screen. And he shows that as you're beginning to meditate, our heart slows down, our breathing rate slows down, etc. Brainwave state drops down to alpha and theta and so on. And all that is based on the harmonics of the golden ratio. So he was able to show that via an app. So there it is. The decagon is the equator of the trichondahedron. So of course the somatic plate there is just looking at a 2D image. But whereas this is what they mean, the light body around our heart, etc., it's going to be a trichondahedron. That'll be the, the decagon's the only flat surface polygon where the radius and edge length's a golden ratio. So we bring that out into the energy form around our heart, then we're back to the trichondahedron again. And this expands upon the theme a little bit further. I'm not sure whether we looked at this last time. Over here, now I just snapped the Stargate movie TV show, and there it is, 1, 2, 3, 10 points, the nodes around the Stargate, decagon. And over here, we've got the B DNA. There's A, B, C, D, and Z DNA. A couple, I think there's one or two of them that are decagons, but it's well known that the B DNA is the best of the DNAs to encode, coding DNA, the best at storing information, and the best at transferring genetic information. In the cross section of the B DNA helix, here's the B DNA here, here's looking down the throat of the B DNA helix, and it's a decagon, aka the Akashic records stored in the Amente. Amente, an anagram, flip the letters around, IM10. Turn it into astrology, we have astrogenetics and so on. So, there's many ways of looking at this, and they all come together and they all support each other. They're all based on the golden ratio. And in my mind, in the near future in education systems, this will be known. It'll be taught as the basic beginning point. Doesn't matter whether you go into the sciences. We've got a few art ones coming up just to bring a bit more fun and joy into this. So here we are with the Earth itself. You can get an app, free app, vortexmaps.com, and you can get an app to upload the ley line grid work, the major trunk lines of the Earth light body, onto Google Earth. And so we've got a point here above New Zealand, and the red lines, well, they are the golden ratio diamonds around the Earth. And if we start at the Great Pyramid and go around some of these, follow around these lines, then some of the sacred sites are on the decagon nodes of the, around the Earth. So in the ancient times, they knew this as well. So now we've got a photon crystal down at that scale. It's the trichondahedron. Here we've got the Earth-sized trichondahedron, Earth ley line grid work and so on. And then we go through to the, okay, I'll put that one in there before I'll go on here and then I'll go back. So we've got the Earth size, we've got the photon size, that scale, and here I've called this one Diamond Sun trichondahedron. So here's the same, the large diamond there. So there's the same golden ratio diamonds there. So think of the sun, think of our sun, think of where solar flares might leave the sun. On Jupiter, think of where the storms and so on Jupiter are coming from, as far as the points or where they originate. And this is where they are on these points here. So this is the sun as well. This is call it the light body of the sun. Sloppy words, I know. There's probably better words that will come in the future that give it a much more meaning, where not only symbolically it has the right shape that we sort of see when we say the word. We could say trichondahedron, but that doesn't mean light body. That's the mathematical or the geometric name for it. So there's probably new phraseology coming as well. So that's that bit. I think there's one or two more, and then there's a couple of fun art ones, and that's probably it. So over here, we've got, originally we looked at the large, originally it was a yellow one in the center, but here it's blue. This is the center. And this is one trichondahedron in the light blue. And I've opened it up, and then you can see the smaller central hub, and there's the 12 around in there, and then there's 12 in there. So I've kind of I made these with a computer program. whereas many of them I built out of cardboard. There's the central hub there, and a few other options there with the 12 around and so on. Oh, sorry, we go back here a little bit. So on this one, there is what's called the Andromedan spheres, Andromedan space stations. There's a few people out there these days, I just cannot remember the names, of people who are representing the Andromedans. And they say, there's a whole collective in their starship out there somewhere in the atmosphere. And this particular person, there's a link here somewhere if you want to follow up, Andromedan councils down there. So this person has drawn up what they thought was going to be the spaceship. And it's basically like a high-rise building. It starts at the bottom and then you've got floors going up like that. But if that's the case, then that's not the geometry of implosion through a center being able to instantaneously compress itself in size, go down through its own center, and then go through the speed of light, the 0 point, and then in the superluminal travel out of the galaxy, out of the solar system, and so on. That's just not the shape. So over here, we've used the same shape. Here it is. Here's the trichondahedron here. But what we've done here is we've used fragments of the trichondahedron. The 12 around one are here. We've used fragments of the trichondahedron to build up sort of sectors. It's a bit hard to see. I've got numerous other images on my website. I think we've got another one coming up. But here, just interestingly, here we've got the alphanumerics for this A1Z26, the name in science or geometry for the shape we've been talking about with the golden ratio diamonds. It's called a trichondahedron. Here we have other phrases that equal 198. Jewel in the lotus. At the top of the head in the crown chakra, when you've reached that stage, you've awakened and become that level of reality. So it's interesting. The trichondahedron, jewel in the lotus. Diamond body training. Sounds good. Angelic fleet habitation. Stabilized plasma field. Compressible plasma. Quantized pine cone. Well, that's that shape we were looking at earlier where the tetrahedrons were compressing to create the volume inside the trichondahedron. Maximally coherent ovoid plasma membrane. So I'm putting that there just to show that when we think of a space station starship that is capable of dematerialization, self-imploding through its own center, so that it's going through the 0 point and then going through into the superluminal so that it can move, two locations can interact in real time over any distance. So things like that, we need a new shape for the starships, other than what we see out there in Star Wars and so on. Another version of the same, basically here. Basically the same thing. So there's a little bit easier image to see there. The white one up there is that central hub where the 12 fit around it. There's that white hub there. It's a bit hard to see, but there's a white trichondahedron there. There's another one there. I haven't put the others there. And then around the circumference, these are what they call golden rhomboids, and they make up. They make up the trichondahedron. So you can pull the trichondahedron apart, and you can use fragments or volumetric aspects of itself to build a circumference ring around here, and then you put the 12 around one in the middle there. And there's many versions of that. Here's another one here, just with smaller versions, the brown ones there, smaller versions of the central hub there. This is fractal rhombic structures. And I've just put a post on my Facebook page that talks all about that and how, again, it's optimum way of combining and storing and bringing together least expenditure of energy and so on. But it has the exact golden ratio metaphysics that Dan Winter uses to self-implode through its own center. That's a big journey around, a lot of geometry needs to be explained and shown to sort of make that more solid in your, in your memory and that. But we've done some work with Dan, and he understands that this is the case with what we've got here. So I think now we've got some more. Oh, there's one image here. And again, this is a more just a projection. So this one's not based on the actual evidence and so on that I usually work with, but this one is more theoretical, but I'm going to give it a go. So here we have over the side a quasi-crystalline language. So some people might call this the silicon body that we're moving towards. Others might call it the diamond ray codes. There's different names for it from different schools of thought. And we know here that we've got the animal kingdom here, second density. We've got the third density, humans. We've got the fourth density, which is another name for the fifth dimension. We've got that there where we're moving into the fifth dimension, or we're creating the fifth dimension is probably a better way of saying it. And we're just now unpacking the diamond codes, all these quasi crystals. All these ones here I've made out of cardboard. They're actual models, and been making those for decades. So they have been around. I've taken them to festivals, so a lot of people have seen those in various ways. So it's interesting that the language of quasi crystals, based and unified with Dan Winter's language of the new physics, metaphysics, based on the Planck wavelength, the 0 point in the spirituality. That language and these models, they haven't been around on the planet before. This is the first. Well, I'm not the first, but a few people have built these, but it's the first era where some of these geometries have been built on the planet. So it's interesting that they're arriving as we're moving into the fifth dimension, or creating the fifth dimension. But then the next level, call it the sixth dimension, or the fifth density is another way of saying that, is that when we're moving into that realm of non-physicality and become non-physical, at the end of the fifth dimension, we're almost non-physical. We've spent many, many years, living an organic lifestyle and connecting to nature, organic diets, and so on and so on. And our physical bodies become lighter and lighter and lighter. It's fusing into the plasma of its auric field around us. And then eventually to move into the fifth density, or the sixth dimension, here's a symbolic view of it. People draw up angels. But when we realize that what's taking place is that we're transforming into our own light body, and here it is, we've got the energetic construct, the soul group shape. Our soul is becoming a soul that does not require a physical body anymore. And we join with other souls in our soul group. We merge back into the oversoul. The oversoul goes ahead, joins with other oversouls, and becomes the creators or the facilitators of galaxies and so on. I'm going to leave that one. So I tried to do this, or I have done this a little bit here. This was me taking some of these models here to schools. And so I did this for a little while there. I'd take them to the school, I'd take along cardboard sheets and hot glue guns and scissors, and the kids would cut them up and they'd build them, they'd make them. And I'd have them all out on the table and so on. So the education system moving forward, new sciences based on these geometries, starting at a young age, the kids see them all like lollies. And this bottom image here. This was at a sort of a local festival. It's a festival where you'd go to, and there was a little bit of music, but basically it was about healing or organic products or different ways of doing things, massage and so on, all there. So I took my models along and we had them all out there on display. But what was really interesting, my friend and I would set them up there, was that around about 95% of the adults who were there to look at, the new things, walked straight past them. They were almost invisible to the adults. Whereas I'd say about 95% of the kids that came along and walked past, they stopped. They stopped there for a long time. They wanted to know all about them. So incredibly interesting how when we think about the new and people in the next 10, 15, 20 years or so, these young kids will be in their 20s and 30s. So, this is how I see this. These are codes from the near future arriving in this time period, preparing for this next step. So just a couple of fun ones now, and then I've sort of said enough. But so here's Lisa Simpson. Here's the creator of Lisa Simpson. So in this image, she's holding up a dodecahedron. So that would have been one in one of the shows there, one of the episodes. And then I noticed that Lisa Simpson's here. There it is there. So there's different, of course, like lots of clips of her moving around and so on. And I took screenshots, and her here was based on the decagon. It's pretty clear. So I thought that was really interesting. Just
Mm.
to yeah, just to bring that in, we know that Simpsons is almost predictable and predicting things ahead of time. So there was some alphanumerics here, I'll just mention them. A1Z26, there's a group of phrases here, or words here, that equal 82. So we've got avatars, star kid, quest, gateway, switch, the decagon, perfected, genetics, innocent, pioneer, intent. So again, we have more cross-referencing, decagon, stargate, etc., perfected genetics, so on, star kid, pioneer, etc. And these ones are oh, this is the city of light. So now that we know, for example, here that a flat surface moving plate here of our heart resonance, Dan Winter's amplitude graph for his app doesn't show a geometric shape, it just has the harmonics in amplitude. So those amplitudes turned into geometric shapes. Well, we've got the decagon here. So if our heart, when we're feeling empathy and compassion and meditating and so on, if that creates the decagon, then the town planners, the urban designers, why not create a town or a city where we lay it out in a decagon? It's the most open, it's the most inclusive, drawing into the heart. It stores the maximum amount of energy. We looked at that with the trichonhedron there. So this is a person here. I forget his name. I've got another image with the original person that did this. So this is, I think it's in Budapest, but this urban designer is designing layouts of towns based on the decagon and clusterings of decagons here. That's like the clusterings of the trichonhedron. So in my view, this is what happens in the future in urban design, is that town planners begin to realize, well, we can recreate the codes of the heart, the codes of the universe, the codes from the future, what the higher realms and more advanced beings are doing and so on. We can recreate that by building our towns, and therefore we have what they call a city of light, a photon, or a city of love, would be another way of saying that. So we'll leave the geometry of the stars. Look, we looked at that one last time, or similar ones there in our last chat. Here's another designer. So this one here, Vincent Verbet, I think it is. Oh, Colbert. Sounds like a French guy. So here he is. He's designing here in this bay with the golden ratio spiral here. And then he's got smaller fractal golden ratio spirals here as well, probably where you'd park up your boat and so on. So urban designers are starting to think like this. This is the fifth dimensional designs seeping their way into the consciousness of university students going through the schools of architecture and urban design.
As it should be, yes.
And I think there's only two more images. So here we've got fruit. This one here is pretty cool. Probably many of us know this already. Sunflower seeds, pine cones, apples, pineapples, and many other fruits. The shape of the fruit's based on a toroidal shape, and even the egg shape there, you can see the egg there up here. The apple with the 5 seeds branching out there from the center there. So all this here, all these fruits and that are based on golden ratio. And we know that golden ratio is right there going through the speed of light. It is the form or it is the shape of the heart, plasma around our heart, but it's also the shape of the universe and so on and so on. So when we're eating fruit, we're eating the field, we're eating the plasma. So this is going on now. Our physical body becomes more and more light as we move into the sort of higher or more mature realms of the fifth dimension. Our diet lightens up as we go because we're eating the field. We're not so much eating food for the food's sake. We're eating food because we know we're eating the plasma, and we know that we're about to become plasma beings, going into the sixth dimension.
Thank you. I have this vision of sorry to interrupt. I have this vision of the sunflower geometry as a visual module where there are dots and the dots are constant moving as a, I don't know, as a, I guess as a medium to or a tool to assist focus in the work that I do in the geometry of dreaming and returning to self and so
Perfect.
thank you for bringing that. Yeah, I don't know how to create that yet, but I see it and it's dots and it just keeps moving and it feels like it's all that you said, the geometry of the universe, the harmonics. And yeah, this is who we are. We are the future, and we somehow got stuck. We
Yeah.
somehow got stuck.
Well, I guess some of us are volunteers, so we voluntarily got stuck to help others who are stuck.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
you might, you might, if you Google search, a sunflower GIF or something like that, you might find that there is images out there with the moving seeds in that kind of way you're talking about there.
Yeah.
Um,
Need to find someone that does that.
yeah, yeah. So there's just more here. The shape of our ear, the shape of our arms, finger joints, the teeth, lips, the womb, the uterus. There's so many shapes based on the golden ratio geometry. In music, there's a few
Yes.
little bits here. Anybody that knows music theory knows that the major and minor sixth, 5/8 and 3/5. So, or sorry, 5/8 and 8/5, is it? That's the major and minor sixth, and that's the Fibonacci distance within the octave. So some composers, including myself, have utilized that understanding, and we build up clusters of chords and scales based on the Fibonacci numbers, which is very close to the golden ratio. It's nature's way of we really need that precision of the golden ratio is really down in the micro scale of physics, down by the Planck level of things, but in the larger nature that we get out and measure with our ruler and so on, it's not exactly golden ratio. It's Fibonacci numbers, and the closer you get to light speed, then the closer to the exact golden ratio you end up getting here. So with Fibonacci numbers or ratios, major minor thirds, major minor sixths, since they're just back to back or inversions of each other, you can create clusters of sounds on a piano, for example. And that brings forward, with a little bit of focus and attention, being able to zoom through, your consciousness zooms through the speed of light. You have lucid experiences. Um, Two more, I think, and then here's one here. So this one here, golden ratio and bliss experience. So the shape of the wave, when the
Mhm.
surfer wants to catch the best wave, then that surfer waits out there, and then all of a sudden he sees, he's intuited, he's tuned in and sense, or she is, and tuned in and catches that wave. It's a golden ratio curve. On the beach, we've got the photographer. He's looking out there at the surfer, and he wants to catch the best photograph. He doesn't know it's golden ratio or anything, but there is, he's waiting for that second where he's experiencing, or she is experiencing bliss at the same time as the surfer is. One's out there surfing, The other one's catching the photograph. Along comes the geometer and puts it over the top, puts the golden ratio spiral over the top, and they're both experiencing bliss. They're both in tune. And again, it's the golden ratio that defines bliss, defines beauty. So there's many, many ways of working with this. It doesn't have to be serious, it doesn't have to be maths or geometry, it doesn't have to be even spirituality. It can be just based on joy, fun, and that experience when we know we're in the zone, in the arts, for example, or even in the garden, or twirling fire toys and things like this. So we only have to be in the zone, that famous saying, just being in the zone. That is embedding in the golden ratio spiral, which runs throughout the universe from the smallest to the largest. So we've entered unity, we've entered the oneness, the wholeness, as we hop into that experience. So I'm going to leave it there with that image.
Thank you.
Very
Wow.
well. Very welcome. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's just so simple, right? We can go into the structure of life and look at it as, this complex geometry and the mathematics of it. And to some it's easier than others to understand it through mathematical equations. But it is who we are. It is part of
Yeah.
it's truly part of the reality that I think we've forgotten. So many of us forgotten the true geometry of life, true geometry of expansion and yes, evolution. It's constant and in motion, and we see that in the galaxy. We see that in astrology. And for some reason, humanity got not not aware of being in motion and being constant with the universe and all of life. So I am delighted to be sharing this information. Yeah, so much to say, but I don't want to take away from what you share because this is just so, I mean, this is magic, right? This is also the geometry of magic when you look at it, because when, a lot of teachers out there would be talking about, oh, to manifest through joy. And as you said, when you are fully immersed in the geometry of bliss, that is your joy, and that is when you create more.
Hmm.
So,
You become a magnetic attractor and you attract towards you,
because
what.
you enter that geometry,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
you return to that geometry.
Hmm. And the universe falls towards you.
Mm.
You know what you seek in the universe is it
Yes.
falls into your lap, as so.
So exciting to see this. And yeah, thank you. And the materials that I am offering in the interstellar communication, it's really a tiny, tiny sample of what you've shared with, returning to the true geometry of self and returning, yes, and then all of the fractals, because if you return to your being, then as you said, the universe is there. We find the universe within.
Exactly.
And unity and interconnectedness. Yeah, when I started receiving these materials, I cried because little I
Mm.
had no idea that what really was about, evolution. Evolution is about a return to totality, not just, oh, we're gonna have, better technology, or, maybe we have machines that heal the body, or sure, those things will exist, but yes, wow. Yeah. Thank you. I feel it. I'm honored and delighted to be sharing this. So thank you so, so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you so much. I think we'll leave it at that. If there's anything else. Oh, and also as I was seeing it, I had this sense, and I don't know how that applies to geometry, inexplainable, words. But I also had a sense that all of that was returning to the true compassion. So
Yeah.
in the passage of time and the experiences that a human has on this timeline and all of these fragments that get somehow a little bit disrupted, and then this geometry returning us to that pure heart.
They go hand in hand. That's right. Yeah. The one and the same.
Mm. Thank you
Mm.
so much, Graham. Such a delight to be with
Yeah.
you. And thank you for speaking it through, because your voice also carries the code, and the images are so useful. Thank you for taking the time. I'm sure that took you months to create all of those uh
Oh, really
codes.
nice to be here. So I just pull them together from my library of images.
But you created those in cardboard, you kept telling us.
Oh yeah, yeah, all the models, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and the geometries. I did that online with a tool that you can get
yeah,
to create the geometries. With a sort of like a little geometric tool that you build it up. Build it.
yeah. Thank you.
Oh, I look forward to our next one, whenever that might be.
Yes, yes, please. That would be a delight. Thank you so much, my dear. Have a wonderful evening in New Zealand and be well until next time. Thank you all for joining us and for watching this. Consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss the next video that we'll do together. Thank you, thank you. Blessings, blessings abound. Much love.
Bye for now.
Love. Bye bye.